Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we welcome you into yet another live edition of Locked On Wild. Seth and Denny here holding it down with you on a Wednesday night. We got a lot of good stuff going on here this evening. Should be a fun show. I'm excited for this one. And without further ado, let's get it over to the man who needs no introduction. Denny, how's it going?
Awesome. And welcome to What the Hell Are You Smoking? And it's a pleasure for me for you to take the time out to listen to me and my hockey games. Tonight's show, I'm going to talk about trades, people we should pick up, my thoughts on the Wild, and a lot of, I would say, gossip in the hockey community. And to start the show, I've had a lot of questions saying that they put in what the hell are you smoking and they're not getting nothing. Well, there's a reason for that. You have to go to Locked On Wild to get to me. That's by design. If we did it any other way, Seth would not get the hits. And I did this show originally with always the intentions of helping Seth. So if you want to hear me, you got to be on Locked On Wild. That's just the way it is. Now, let me move up a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's just because I'm so high.
Well, I was losing half my face there. Let's see. How's that?
Yeah.
This is a brand new setup for me. Now, my green screen behind me will be, it's going to be done tomorrow. The software is installed. I got a professional come in to set up everything. And to start the show, let's talk about Brodin and what's going on with him. And I'll tell you what I think. I believe he's got a herniated disc or a slip disc. And the reason I say that is because they want to give him shots. Well, what they're going to do is give him shots of lidocaine so he doesn't feel nothing. But it's just a Band-Aid. Brodin has to go on LTIR, get his back done, which is probably a fusion, wherever it is, and expect to be out up to 3 months. And that's just my thoughts on it. But the way they're talking about it, they need to get it done. He's got to be ready for the playoffs. You know, no matter what the Wild do during the year, it does not matter as long as they make the playoffs. It's the Stanley Cup run that I want to see. And this is how I'm looking at it. Number one, we need to trade for Brock Nelson. 33 years old, $2 million. He's got a $6 million cap hit, but the New York Islanders have already paid him $4 million. So it's less than $2 million. And of course, Johansson gets to go the other way. And then work out a 3-year deal for him. I mean, Brock Nelson has 18 points in 30 games. He's 6'4". He can play center or wing. And how good would he look in our top 6? I mean, think about it for a second. I put a lot of thought in this. I looked at 176 players. Second, I took Palmieri from the New York Islanders to play with them. They're actually playing on the same line. He's also 33 years old. He's also a UFA. And whatever kind of deal they could make for him, it would not be overboard. I mean, you're talking about somebody who's been in the hockey league for 10, 12 years and have never won a cup. And with Minnesota, you know what we're selling? We can win a cup. We need a couple players in the top 6, period. I don't care what they say about it. We do. And the evidence is, look what the Kings did to us. I don't care if it was the back-to-back. What about the home game? Same thing. There's no difference. We need a second line. A third line and fourth lines will be fine, but we need a second line. And how would Brock Nelson and Palmieri with Eck look on the second line? That would be just unbelievable. And, you know, right now they're saying Brodin is skating and everything's good. No, it's not good. He should just go in the LTR, get it done. And to replace him, after looking at everybody, he's not a UFA. His name's Brady Shea. He's with Nashville, which is just a train wreck. And if Nashville would pay for half the contract, I would give up a one, maybe another pick and a player to get. Just think about Brady Shea, Declan Chisholm on the third line, Brodin and Spurgeon on the second line, and Faber and Middleton on the first line. Now that's elite. And you need that for a cup run. I don't care about the regular season. Look at how good Boston did. They won the President's Cup. Where'd that get them? Nothing. Playoffs are a different animal. And I believe with Nelson and Palmieri, because they've been in the league a long time, he scored 50 points in the playoffs. And Palmieri, he's a damn good right wing. He'd look good in the second and first line, believe me. That's what we really need to do in order to be a cup contender, because we're not right now. Even though the Wild are first, I actually dropped them down to fourth this week. I do my power rankings a little bit different than everybody else's, because they beat a very mediocre team, did nothing for me. I dropped them 2 points because of it. I had them ranked number 1 last week, and I dropped them down to fourth this week. And when you take into the consideration of what the Kings did to them, it just shows you right there, any good defensive team, a good team, can shut down one line. We have to have a second line to be contenders. And that's all there is to it. I don't care what they say. We need 2 scoring lines. And the third and the fourth, whatever they give, they give. As long as they don't give up goals, we're good to go. And as for Brodin, I hope they make the right choice and let him get it done right away, because then he's ready for the playoffs, and there's nobody better than Brodin. You know, he's smooth as silk out on the ice. His transition game is the best. And Brodin and Spurgeon, I mean, they're fine wine. Let's put it that way. Well, enough of that. What do you want to talk about next, Seth? Questions?
Yeah, Trav had a bunch of questions. So I think we can certainly rifle through those. I'll highlight a couple of comments so far. Amanda says background looks great.
Oh, wait till you see. That's the green screen. Wait till you see the stuff that's going to go on it. You won't believe it. I mean, it's unbelievable. You're going to like it. Trust me. I spent a lot of money to get all this stuff. You should see my apartment. Looks like a studio. I got all these lights with what do you call with hide in the water?
Oh, like
When it's like a what?
those lights that just help with the shadows.
Yes. You know, when it rains, you put up an umbrella. I got umbrellas all over this place right now, which is pretty cool. And I got a professional coming in here tomorrow to hook everything up and get everything ready. So my next show will be a brand new studio. It's going to be cool. You're going to like it. I hope so. All right, let's get to a question.
A couple of other comments. Amanda says we need somebody with some skill on the penalty kill and the power play, in addition to just generally needing people to find the back of the net really bad. That penalty kill is a disaster. I've run out of words to describe it, and that's one of Trav's questions, but it is failure personified, and it's starting to really piss me off because other than that, if you just needed some secondary scoring, that's something that you can go out and get. I don't know what you do about a penalty kill unit that is currently 30th in the league, and just no matter what you try, no matter who you throw in there, it just continues to be awful. Like, I don't know what you do about it, because we saw early in the season the Wild didn't take hardly any penalties. It was still bad. Now they're taking more penalties, and it's worse.
Well, here's my view on the penalty kill. Number one, they got to have speed on top. When you look at the Du brothers, they had 23 takeovers and scored 8 goals because of their speed. And what they're doing right now, they're going into a box, it's not working. They need speed on top to force the pass to disrupt the rhythm of their play. And they're not doing that. They're letting them set up, they're passing around, and when you see an opening, they go for it. And you see how that's working. I mean, Christ, when they scored 2 power play goals and haven't had any in 31, what does that tell you? They got to change their whole way of thinking about the penalty kill. And really, I really like speed on top of Murat. And when Lacqua comes back, Lacqua should get a lot of time on the penalty kill, and that'll make us a lot better because speed kills. And when you can force a pass or disrupt the pass, you're breaking up the play, and they're not doing that right now.
On to the questions. Well, first, Urban is a pass on Shea with that 7x7. It's if they would get some of that eaten up. This is kind of where signing a player at the age of 30 to that type of a deal is just going to be not appetizing for many. They would have to find a way to work that out, because that is it's a large contract.
Well, the only way I would do is if they paid half contract, $3.5 million. If we could get him for $3 million with a different player, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But not otherwise.
Yeah.
But Nashville is so bad. They need new players, they need young players, and we got them. And there you go. Probably not, but that's what I would do if I was the GM. I would make a deal for Bridge. I mean, when you watch him skate and pass, and Jesus, we'd have 3 incredibly defensive lines that are just music to my ears. But of course, it's not going to happen. I doubt it, but you never know. I've been finding out that a lot of people are listening to. Oh, in fact, that brings this up. A month ago, I did a story about picking up Brock Nelson, and Hockey Wilderness. Her name is Kalishi Turnsteed. Did a story a couple days ago. You can look it up. It's exactly what I said. First part, second part, and last part. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And she gave me no credit at all. But I'm just going to tell you, if you go back and look at my show about Brock Nelson and trading for him, and read what Hockey Rollers and now the New York Post and several others have all picked up on it, well, it came from me, bottom line, which is pretty nice better. All right, next question.
Dan says it is a structure issue, not a personnel issue for the Wild penalty kill. I will trust that Dan has looked into it more than I have. Frankly, it just causes me too much anguish to even look into at all. I honestly, he's probably not wrong. You would think with the players that the Wild have at their disposal that it should be good. Philip Gustafson's having a fantastic year. The Wild defense is fantastic in 5-on-5. I just don't understand how there is such a disparity between 5-on-5 play and subtracting one player from that mix. You still have the same number of defensemen on the ice. So it probably is a structure issue. I just would like it to get fixed so that I don't have to ever talk about it again.
It's absolutely a structure issue. They go into a box and they don't move. And that's not how the penalty kill works. You got to be aggressive. You got to force them to make mistakes, and they're not doing that. They're sitting back. They're going a four-man box, and everybody just picks away at it. And there's no pressure on the penalty kill. And plus, they're always losing the faceoffs. And what did I say at the beginning of the year? We need to hire somebody to teach everybody how to take face-ups. Well, they haven't taken that advice, have they? Next question.
We'll go to Hoptics, who's just wondering where the slip disc or back injury came from. He said, I haven't really heard much about it other than it's a soft tissue lower body. Wondering if Russo said anything, or he just curious where that came from.
That comes from me having one. When they said injections right away, that's lidocaine, number one. And when they put it back in place, it's a herniated disc. And they call, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in hockey, all it takes is one hit and he's back on the IR. That's why I'm pretty sure it's a herniated disc. Slip disc, herniated disc, it doesn't matter. All it takes is one hit and he's back out. So just get it done so he's ready for the playoffs. Which reminds me, Hockey News had a big deal today that we're trading Brodin for KD Miller or Andrew Miller for Brodin. That's the latest. Now, can you believe the New York Rangers would actually say that? Now, who would be crazy enough to trade Brodin for Andrew Miller? I mean, come on. He's a young player who will have one decent year and they think they're going to get Brodin. They're dreaming. In fact, what the hell are they smoking? That's what I want.
There you go.
God. Oh, Jesus. The hits that they put out to get hits is unbelievable. Because that's not enough.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it here, see if I can find the specific trade. I'll keep looking for it as we go. One of Trav's questions was time frame on Ek, Brodin, and Zuccarello, and so I'll piggyback off of what Hoptics is saying here. Michael Russo asked John Hines after the game against Utah, and Hines said that both Brodin and Ek have resumed, or both Brodin and Zuccarello have resumed skating. I was hoping that I wouldn't do the exact same thing that John Hines did. Both Brodin and Zuccarello have resumed skating. No real timetable on any of those guys, but no skating yet for Ek is the latest update.
Well, think about this, guys. If you got hit in the nuts and had to have an operation at 36 years old, how good do you think you're going to be? I mean, I don't care if you're light skating. That means nothing. He's never going to be the same. I mean, think about it. What he went through and what happened to him is unbelievable. I couldn't find anything in NHL hockey to compare it to. I mean, that's how rare what happened to him. I mean, when you bend the cup, holy jeez, that had to really hurt. Oh, I can tell you this, he's not getting laid anytime soon. Next question.
Let's go to this one from Trav. New York Rangers general manager Chris Drury sent out a memo to all GMs in the league stating that the Rangers were open for business. Who would you take from the Rangers, and what would you give? He says you can't include Merrill or Mojo in a deal because nobody wants them. I'm looking at the New York Rangers roster here. And yes, in theory, it would be nice to get a player like Keandre Miller because he's 24.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there have been people that have said, go get Chris Kreider or go get one of their top line guys. I don't think I want really anybody that would legitimately be available off of that Rangers roster, because it's like the players that are available are the players that have caused the problem for that Rangers team in general. It's an old roster.
They're old, they're slow, and look at the money they're paying them. There's no way I would take anybody, especially Keandre Miller. I mean, they put him up like he's a superstar. Very average player. And they want Brodin in return. Not a chance in hell. I mean, that's just New York.
Like the Kreider in particular, he's signed to a $6.5 million deal for the next 2 seasons after this one.
Yep.
They'd have to eat over half for me to even consider it. And even then, it just doesn't do anything for me. And as Hoptics is saying here, Mika Zibanejad, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, he signed for 8.5 every year until 2030.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hurdles that you would have to jump to even make that a possibility. I just am a no.
Period.
Yeah.
There's nothing for me. I don't, like I said, I looked at all the teams. Well, the Rangers only because I started reading all the stuff about they're trading Brodin for him. There's nobody in New York I'd want. Honest to God, they're way overpaid. The Wild don't have the money. And the way I'm talking about with Brodin and Palmieri, Brock Nelson will cost us $2 million, and we give him Johansson back in the trade. Guess what it costs us then? Nothing. But a pickup player. You can't get any better than that. And you know what? Because the New York Post and Hockey Wilderness, they're all talking about it now. That just makes me feel good because they got it from me. There's no reason. I mean, we can't get a better deal on Brock Nelson. And a lot of people have asked me about Anders Lee. He's not a UFA.
Yeah, same
and
thing.
I'm not anybody who's not a UFA because then you're overpaying. I wouldn't operate that way as a GM.
Yeah,
I want a deal.
I will say too, I would probably rather have Anders Lee than like Chris Kreider, just because Lee he's showing a pulse at least, but it's the same issue there. You got to try to work it into your books, and there just is a lot of financial finagling I don't really want to deal with right now until Kirill Kaprizov's new deal gets put in.
Well, Kaprizov's going to cost at least $14 million, and if he does anything like I expect him to do this year, which I told you up front, 120 to 150 points, which is all very real, he may cost $15 million because he's going to win some stuff. I had a show about Kaprizov, and you're watching greatness, and yes, you are. I haven't seen a player like Kaprizov since the one and only Gretzky. And I'm talking about great players. Kaprizov is going to break every record the Wild have ever had. And he's going to make records that nobody's ever. Second to Gretzky. He can't beat Gretzky. There'll never be a player like Gretzky, in my opinion. I mean, it could happen, of course, but you guys missed out on Gretzky. And I was fortunate enough to watch him for 10 years. But Kaprizov, as I told you at the beginning of the year, you're watching greatness. Look at what he's done with his passing now. This is just the start. He is the most talented player Minnesota's ever had. And he's only becoming better. You think about in another year or two, I mean, right now Austin Matthews gets 60, 70 goals. Kaprizov will be there too. You've just got to have the players. And if they keep Rossi with Kaprizov and Boldy, you're going to see that happen because that's one hell of a lot. And I wish he'd stop talking about trading Rossi. It just pisses me off.
Yeah, I'm so.
And he's already top 50. How can you think about even trading him? He's a diamond. He's starting to spark. Trust me when I tell you that. I've been watching hockey for 63 years. And there's very few people. He's one of the best centers we've ever drafted, ever. And that's saying a lot.
I'm going to say this too on the Rossi front. I am.
Take a break 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well, I'll make my Rossi point. I'm going to throw Bill Guerin a bone here. I am starting to believe that the Rossi trade steam has been way more media driven lately than it has been actual trade steam. I think that was something that, is it possible that Guerin at the beginning of the season, before the season started, is it possible he looked into what he could possibly get for a player like Marco Rossi entering into the final year of his ELC? It's possible. In fact, I would probably put it likely that that's exactly what happened. But there's one thing in seeing what is available for a player and trading them. Like that those are two very different scenarios. The Minnesota Wild, as of now, have not traded Marco Rossi, and yet we continue to hear about the until we continue to hear about teams are lining up. Somebody's going to trade for him. He's going to get traded. He's going to get traded. Like, okay. It hasn't happened yet, and until it does, I'm going to chalk it up to a GM just gauging value on particular players. Bill Guerin sees what Marco Rossi has been doing on a nightly basis. It's not like he is just reading the box scores and saying, Rossi didn't score tonight. Oh, that means he must have had a bad game. He's watching the games. He sees what we all see in what Marco Rossi is doing. And so it has just morphed to the point that I'm frankly just exhausted by even discussing the possibilities. And yet it seems like it's every show has an episode once every couple of weeks gauging the potentials, and it's gotten up to the national level now. It's a plague. It's a plague on Minnesota Wild hockey coverage because the Wild were looking into his value early on in the season, that must mean that they're going to trade him at some point. I don't see it. I think it would have happened by now, and you're not going to get rid of a guy with the team playing as well as they are. That is a huge part of that. Guess what? He's third on the team in points. He's third on the team in goals. You don't just chuck that away because he's a little too small for my liking. He's a damn good player, and I wish we would just put it to bed.
Well, when you're a top 50 player in this league in the second year and you're just starting out, and like I said before, the only thing he has to get better at comes with time. Learning how to read the play to get open sooner and all the time. You take the best players in NHL hockey, they're always open. You want to know why? Because they're reading the play and they know where to go to be open. And that's the only thing he has to learn. And that comes with time and repetition and just playing hockey. You can't have a better second-year player. You know, every team in the NHL would sign up to trade for Rossi if they could. He's a stud. He's a diamond who's just starting to sparkle. Trust me, we're not trading them. But it's going to cost them $10 million more now. If you recall, at the beginning of the year, I said we should sign him for $8 million or 8 years at $5 million. Well, it's going to cost them another $10 million now. But they better still sign him 8 years, $50 million, because he's just a stud. His two-way game is so far ahead of everybody else's for a second-year player. I've thought about trying to mix them up with players I've watched over the years for a second-year player, second-year center that plays a two-way game like him. It's hard for me to think about anybody who's in that category. He's really that good. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I'm as hard on the Wild as anybody in the league, harder than most. Which brings me to John Hynes. You know, his whole thing, he won't play the kids. And why Ogren isn't up now is a damn shame. We need him up here right now. Let him play 20 games and let's see what we got. I mean, my whole thing is building for Stanley Cup. 16 games when the season's over. That's what I'm looking at. Nothing else. I could care less if we take fourth as long as we make the playoffs. We got to see what our kids can do. And Hynes has a real problem playing the kids. And that's his biggest deficit. I like how Hynes mixes and matches players looking for advantages on the team. He's very good at that. And as Seth mentioned earlier, Dino would never do what Hynes is doing. But, you know, it's two different styles of hockey. The best hockey coach I ever saw was Al Arbor, the New York Islanders. He made his system according to his players. And once Hynes gets to that position, we'll win Stanley Cup. He is getting there. He's not there yet. You know, and I'm as hard on Hynes as anybody. But he has to start playing with some of the kids, especially Ogren. All he does is score goals down in Iowa. What's he going to learn down there? What can he possibly learn in AHL? He's the best player on the league or on the team anytime he plays against anybody. He's that good. And why he's not up here is beyond me because, well, you know what I think? Even though Johansson had a 3-point game, good. Easier for us to trade. I don't like him at all. He took last year off, and that's all I got to say about that again for the 100th time. And you average 0 shots or 1 shot a game. Now he's playing with passion. Well, it's a contract year. Where was that last year? Yeah. Let's move on.
On the Hynes refuses to play the kids topic, Trav, 10 days after acquiring David Juracek, he was sent to Iowa. The team reports it's to get him playing hockey, but he was evaluated by the coaching staff and GM prior to being sent down. There had to be issues. Do you think we will see Juracek in St. Paul this season if there are no more injuries to defensemen? I, Trav, respectfully disagree. I don't think there are any issues. From what John Hynes said himself, they got a chance to see him at practice, to see where his game is at. They gave him things to work on, and he's going to go to Iowa to work on those things. He said they had a full sit down, and they talked about where he's at in his process. and gave him tangible things to go down to Iowa, get games under his belt. And at this point, if you are not going to move any of the 6 defensemen that are in the lineup right now out, it makes all the sense in the world for him to go to Iowa to play. And they called up Cameron Crody, I think is his name, as a depth guy, 7th defenseman. That's fine if he sits on the bench. I don't want Juracek sitting as the 7th defenseman when he could be getting games in Iowa. And so I'm going to, again, give Hines the benefit of the doubt there, because if they gave him stuff to work on, let him go work on it and then evaluate. The team's not going to get through the rest of the season without injuries. And if he goes down there and gets some games and some confidence under his belt, he is a prime candidate to get called back up and play. But at this point, if the options are sit as the 7th defenseman or go to Iowa and get games in, I'm taking get games in every day of the week.
Absolutely. What I watched from Juracek from when he played overseas to playing with Columbus, the one thing I noticed, he's lost a little confidence. He's taken a step more before a pass. And that I attribute to how they were treating him and making him play something that he's not doing. He's a stud. And I got to tell you something. When Judd Brackett wants to give up 4 draft picks for him, believe me, Judd Brackett there's nobody better. The Wild have never had anybody. He's a stud. And if they gave him to sit down and tell him what he has to do, believe me, he's going to do it. If we see him at the end of the year, it'll be nice. He just had, he's lost confidence playing down in Columbus, whatever they're doing with him. He's not the same player that he was. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And he just has to get that back, that swagger. Because, Jesus, he's a big boy and he can skate. His transition game isn't as good, but you can't expect a kid like that to be that good. I mean, I look at Brodin, who's the very best in the transition game there is in hockey, period. I don't care who you are. Not even Cale Makar is as good in transition as Brodin, in my opinion. Now he's got Brodin to learn from, and Spurgeon, Faber. I mean, he's got all kinds of people to help him, not including the coaches and the skating people. I mean, he's in a good place, and I can't ever doubt what Judd Brackett does, because it's nothing but gold.
Yeah, and I get the sense that Columbus didn't really have a plan with Juracek. They said, "Oh yeah, we'll get you up to the NHL level. We'll let you play a bunch of games." Guess what? That organization has been a mess for more than a few years, and
yeah,
I am going to John. One of the things that John Hines does well is communicate. And so the fact that they sat down with Juracek and said, here's what we'd like you to do. Let's see how he does over the next however long.
Well,
and then we'll evaluate.
Number one, when you give up 4 picks for a player, they got to be pretty damn impressed. And everything I read from his old coaches over in Europe they have nothing but the best to say about him. And these are all hockey people. I mean, Columbus just didn't know what to do. And, of course, that's the case with most of the people down in Columbus, because they don't have a clue how to run a hockey club. They're getting better now, and Dino has done wonders for them. And, they got hockey people running the show now, but how many years have they been in turmoil?
Since Tortorella left, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions? Any more?
Yes, we've got a bunch more. Trav wanting to know a hypothetical scenario. I don't think any of these are going to get actually moved, but Trav just is curious as to what sort of package you could ask for if you were to trade Joel Eriksson Ek, Jesper Wallstedt, and the Wild 2027 first round pick.
What?
If you were to, what could you get in return? My answer would be pretty much anything you wanted. Trav is not saying that those players should be traded or that the Wild are going to. There's an out of the box trade scenario.
That's such a ridiculous question. Move on to the next.
Trav, I'll answer that in a separate episode because I got exact. He said it's a hypothetical just for fun. I got exactly where he was going there.
Next question.
Let's talk about Jesper a little bit. Trav, also, what is our level of concern with Jesper? I get that he doesn't have a good team in front of him, so the save percentage and the goals against average is a bit deceiving. But to make that next step, he's going to have to start stopping the puck.
I've watched a couple of the Iowa Wild games now, and I can tell you this. The Iowa Wild are very fragile. Hockey people who have been in hockey and played hockey know what I'm talking about. When you're fragile, if you make a mistake and everything just falls apart, that's what's happening with Iowa Wild. They really need to change culture. I think he's in over his head down there. And show from last year to now, they need to make a change down there because they've got too much talent. I mean, they've what 5, 6 games and lost 8 now. And
I think they're 8-11-1. I think is their overall record. Jesper's record now is 4-6-1.
And he's still 0.
Yeah, he's playing right now, and has so far stopped all 17 shots against Rockford.
There you go.
Through
Ice
2
hog.
periods. And his last game on the 7th, he gave up 2 goals on 24 shots. He's had the beginning of the season was just a mess. 12 goals in the first 2 games. But then he went on a stretch of 4 straight where he allowed 3 or fewer goals. Then little rocky, 5 goals allowed, then 8 and 5. But this is another thing that John Hines talked about is I don't care about the numbers. I think he said point blank, I don't care about the numbers for Jesper. I want to see how he responds. Like, how do you because NHL games, things are not going to go according to plan. Like, they're going to go wonky more than they go according to plan. So part of the process is learning how to handle when things don't go your way, when the team in front of you doesn't play a great game and you have to deal with that, or when you have a night where you just aren't seeing the puck. Like, that's what Hines has said. I want to see how he responds in those situations. And he's had rough starts, but he certainly has bounced back after them so far this year, which the goals against average is buoyed by 2 games in which he allowed 8 goals and 7. If you take those 2 out, I'm sure his numbers are just fine.
I have no worries or concerns about Wallstedt at all. He's a stud. I'm glad we got him. He's one of the best deals that Judd Brackett, when he traded up with Edmonton to get Wallstedt, probably the best deal Minnesota's ever done, in my opinion. He's a stud for the next 10 years. And the problem is, first off, they sent him up, they sent him down, they didn't play him. He had no routine. You know, goalies they're a different breed, and they get into this, I don't know what you want to call it, but they have their form and their function and stepping over this or doing this or putting on the socks left, right, but, all kinds of weird stuff. He didn't have any of that. He just up and down. He never got the flow, never got to play. Then you send him down to a team that no direction in the beginning at all. They're playing a little better now, but they're so fragile. I mean, they make a mistake and they just, you know, Iowa all need to make coaching change. We got a lot of talent there, and it just shows that Kane's over his head.
Jeremy points out, too, the issue with Jesper is that they've been shafted by puck luck problems. He said they had a goal go in off of a rebound that ricocheted off of a skate and in. He said he's also had games where of the shots he stopped, he maybe let in 2 that he should have gotten and have 6 go in from insane bounces and weird ricochets.
Yeah. The hockey gods are not nice to Wallstedt right now.
But again, like I like it. I like it from Hines because it just stuff is just not going to go according to plan. You can't go into a game and expect that the team in front of you is going to play great every night or that you're going to play great yourself every night. It's about how you respond. We learn through failure. Failure is the best teacher. All of those cliches. Sports boys, I think. How much would we have to give up for Zegras?
For Zegras? What?
I'm gonna pass on Trevor Zegras.
Are you talking Trevor Zegras out in Anaheim?
Yeah. Yep.
No.
You could probably get
trade
him for little to nothing right now because his ankle basically fell off in one of their recent games, and so he's on the shelf, but he's going to be a great example of how a team not being able to figure out what they're doing can ruin a player.
Oh, that's Anaheim all day long. Trevor Zegras, in my opinion, is just a very average player. You know, he had that one highlight goal with the stick and the wraparound. Then now they're calling the Michigans, but it's been done for a long time. That's what he's famous for. Very average player. I wouldn't trade for him.
Yeah.
He has no grit.
Hard pass. Let's go to this one. Trav wondering if the rumors are true and the Wild trade for Brock Nelson. What chance is there that Urov signs his ELC with center depth of Brock Nelson? Now he's talking Brock Nelson as a free agent, I would assume. He said, what's the chances that Urov signs his ELC with center depth of Nelson, Rossi, Eck, Goudreau, Hartman, and Huznadinov, and other center prospects in the system? Unless Guerin has guaranteed Urov a spot, why would he sign here? He could just as easily pull a Jack McBain and just demand a trade.
Well, number one, Urov hasn't showed anything in the NHL yet. He's doing okay. This year he's doing okay. He's not as good as last year. He is going to be a top 6 player, I think. But you know what? He hasn't played a game. What can he talk about? And with Eck, he's always getting hurt now. Rossi, you're probably looking at Urov as second-line right winger. And that's only if he can play. I mean, we haven't seen him yet. You know, things change when you get from Russia over to here. We'll see what he can do. I mean, everything I've looked at on tape, he looks good. Last year is phenomenal. This year, not so much. Yeah, you know, we'll see. Everybody wants to play. You know.
I would say that just because the Wild have a good amount of guys that have played center, doesn't mean that he's not necessarily going to get those opportunities. But I think you see it a lot. You see a guy maybe start out as one and transition to the other, or maybe he starts out as a wing and he transitions to center. Like It's being pointed out in the comments. Like, think Ryan Hartman. He has played both. He certainly could. Yurov could certainly move between. And another thing that we have learned about John Hines is he certainly isn't afraid to try some different things to get face-off wins. Like, I'm going to have Boldy take this face-off. Boldy's not a center, but like it just gives you versatility.
Yep. Number one, if you can play center, you can play wing. It doesn't matter. It's just good to have depth, no matter what. And anytime I'm looking at building a team now, it's not for the season. It is for the playoffs. And if you don't have the grit, the heart, and have been there, because, playoffs come, it's man on man, and it doesn't end. Just keep going. It's a whole different game. Yurov isn't ready for that yet. I don't care how good he is over there. He's not anywhere near Kaprizov when he was over in Russia. As I talked about a long time ago on Beyond the Pond with Pat Micheletti, Kaprizov is one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. And that starts back in Russia, and we had a lot of conversations about that. I'm telling you right now, you're just starting to see how good Kaprizov is. He really is great. And I'm just glad I did that.
What was I going to go next? What are our thoughts on Sammy Walker? I don't know if it's been asked already, but is he cooked at this point?
I would trade Sammy Walker and the Brock Nelson or Palmieri deal.
I think Sammy got a little overhyped at the beginning because he looked good with the combination of I don't even remember who he played with. Was it Boldy and Goudreau? I don't even remember. He's got
some really goals for him, actually. A couple of years ago, he had just one hell of a game where I think he got a game winner. But, for whatever reason, Minnesota don't like him. He's not going to play up here anymore. He's a good trade. And I would send him to New York in the Brock Nelson deal with, whatever I got to do. And I'm going to tell you something. Because they signed Brock Nelson, Billy Guerin added him to the 23-man roster. That tells me right there we are signing Brock Nelson. I'm just going to tell you, if it isn't from anything I've seen or read, I'm just telling you what I've seen in hockey for 63 years. When they do stuff like that, they're signing Brock Nelson. Because how else are you going to get a $6 million man for $2 million with costing little? Second round player, you can't beat it. He's 6'4". He's been through the grind. He knows what it takes. He's a Minnesota boy. How can you go wrong? I'm telling you. And I'm glad the rest of the nation is waking up to that fact. Because they certainly read my article and saw my show about it. Next question.
Are we thinking the Wild will be able to hold on with all of the injuries?
Oh, I expect we're going to be losing a few games here. Missing Brodin really, really hurts us. And missing Eck really, really hurts us. Zugs we can overcome, but Eck and Brodin, they're two stalwarts and two studs, and we really miss their play. We have no second line right now. And when I look at the team, we are not a Stanley Cup contender as we are. And that's what I'm looking. We need to make a couple of additions. You know who my choices are. And because they signed him to the 23-man roster, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Brock Nelson is on his way to make the set. Sooner the better. Next.
I think next we'll go to Christopher Nelson, 4979. Why are the Wild taking so many penalties lately? The game against Utah should never have gone to a shootout.
Well, there again, Utah's got some fresh, fast, young talent. And when you only have one line to worry about, you know, I was so disappointed in that game. Even though they won, they should have lost. They got lucky. And of course, like Seth said, instead of losing this year, they're winning. I was not overjoyed at all with that game. A lot of lackluster play. And I'm not going to pick out players right now, but they know who played and who didn't. I'm docking the Wild for that. They're going to be fourth in my next power rankings. I'm dropping them 3. Next.
Next is from Rodeo Bill. Is it just me or has Faber's play dropped to mere human levels lately? Are there any stats that would support what his eyes are seeing?
Brock Faber has not gone into a slump, but he's really his first full year. He was outstanding last year. This year, he's above average. He's making mistakes, but that happens to everybody. There's only a couple of defensemen that I can think of in my whole life who played better than him, and that one is Bobby Orr, who never made a mistake. That's why I consider him the best defenseman I've ever seen. But he's just, sometimes there's a situations where he forgets what's going on. And that just comes with repetition and learning the game. Last year he got a little lucky. This year you're seeing more what he's about. And with Faber on the power play, he doesn't make decisions fast enough. He's not passing the puck fast. He's a step behind. I really like Declan Chisholm up on a power play instead of Brock, to be honest. Because he's a little bit faster on making his passes and his decisions. And Brock will go into it. I mean, this is all brand new for him. He's not doing anything wrong. He's his assimilation before he makes a decision takes a little bit long. And, in time, he'll be fine. I mean, he's a stud. I'm not worried.
I think the reason that Faber's numbers last year looked as good as they did is because he had to be that good with all the injuries to the rest of the D-corps and the amount of stuff that he was asked to do. He frankly, he had no choice other than to just do all of it because there was nobody else that was capable of doing it. Now, think about what has happened this year. After that stretch of games that Jared Spurgeon missed, that 5-game stretch, he's come back and he's been great. Jonas Brodin, up until he got hurt, was great. Declan Chisholm has stepped into Jonas Brodin's spot and has been great. Jake Middleton has been fantastic this year. I think the reason the numbers for Faber are down is because, as Jeremy mentions, he has not been used nearly as much as he was last year. And you're going to have a dip in stats all across the board. And it's maybe not necessarily that a player is not playing particularly well, but I think as much as it is maybe just not having to do as much. It's other guys around him playing better too, I think is part of this whole process.
Yeah, you got to remember he's a kid. He didn't make a mistake last year. He's made a few this year. Not a big deal. I mean, he's a stud. We're lucky we got him, and we got him signed up for a long time. I mean, Minnesota is really building a dynasty, in my opinion. If they got to bring up Ogren. They got to trade for Nelson, maybe Palmieri. And if Brodin goes away, I think it's going to go. They need a defenseman. I really like Damon Hunt. Columbus got a steal with Damon Hunt. I really like him. And you never really give him a shot here for whatever reason. You're going to see him shine in Columbus. So that's why I'm picking Brady Shea, but we'll see what happens. I mean, if they don't want to eat half the contract, then they move on. I'm not going to do anything to hurt the team.
Other than that, I think that's all the questions. So I think that's as good a spot as any to
wrap her up.
Call it a night for tonight. But first, we do have an award that we need to hand out.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a nominee for?
Well, let me think about this for 1 second. Well, I'm going to have to go with Hockey Wilderness Collision Turn Speed. What the hell are you smoking for not giving me any credit for your article, which you copied from me? There, I said it. I don't care if you're pissed or not. You got it from me. Be nice to get a little credit. What do you think, Seth?
I think that'll do it for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, as always. And before you go, hit that like button. As Bob says, don't be a Grinch. Smash the like button.
Thank you, everybody, for taking your time to listen to me and my views of hockey. We'll see you next Sunday. Oh, we'll be on Sunday at noon with the new studio. See you then. Thanks.